the solution is to take all of the corporate decision making and remove it in the corporate greed out of that equation, and actually thinking about a system that is, one, more efficient, because the latest Yale study said it was going to save 114,000 lives and $1 trillion a year. But it also brings in the idea that you're making equitable decisions and sound decisions rather than catering to the needs of shareholders.
Yeah, which I don't think we're going to be getting much of that from Neal, unfortunately.
Oh no, he's the fucking poster child of all of this. It's bad. Everything. United Health, Pfizer, you go down the list, opioid companies. He takes money from anybody.
How are you doing? Please introduce yourself to the people in the audience who don't know who you are.
Yes. So Jeremy Whalen, running for United States Congress, Democratic primary, September 1st. We're the fourth latest. So you're the best. I'm the best progressive candidate that you never even heard of. That's kind of by design. We've been flying under the radar and doing a whole bunch of grassroots shit in the best possible way. And so now everything's coming to fruition right now. We've been knocking doors with PV for almost a year at this point. And a little bit about myself. I came from a small town. And in that small town, I knew everybody that I graduated with, first and last name. And there was a lot of people across the political spectrum that were in that town as well. So what I do very well is I wrap all of the progressive politics into a nice little bow that anybody can relate to. So when I'm drinking beers at the VFW with my friends, they're dressed in camo, and I go, hey, you know how you cut yourself on a tractor and you had to take an ambulance ride, and that ambulance ride and a few stitches was like $4,000? Where did all that money go? And they're like, yeah. And I go, well, we should probably cut out the greed and bloat in that and lower that bill, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, probably a single entity that you interface with would streamline that and save a lot of money. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, that's Medicare for all, my man. And so that's kind of the premise of everything that we do. So graduated from UMass with 3 degrees. One of them was history. And I'm a firm believer that if we're not learning from history, we're doomed to repeat it. We have a lot of dumbasses that are running the country right now, and we need to educate ourselves. It doesn't mean that you need to have a degree. I think that the problem with the Democratic Party is that it is seen as elitist, but you have to come to some sort of objective truth in all of this and work together on solving these problems.
So speaking of idiots running the country, would you count among those people Richard Neal, the 19-term incumbent that you're running against?
Yeah, he's been there for 37 years, and I'm 39 years old, Bosch.
And under his stewardship, has your district flourished?
So I'm looking around and I'm knocking doors, and people are saying they can't afford their utility bills and electric bills. And I say, yeah, because Richie Neal takes money from Eversource, and he's not going to advocate for that shit. And then they tell me that their rent has gone up $300 because of a corporation that came in and purchased the housing or the single family homes. And I go, yeah, because he takes money from Blackstone, the world's largest landlord. Mm-hmm. And so he's not getting the job done. And people know that. And he's also super absent. He's a ghost in this district. So that also sticks out. And that's a craw on people's sides as well.
I mean, yeah, if you've been reelected 19 times, it seems like there's not much of an incentive for you to change, right? You can just kind of kick your feet up at the desk and assume that people are going to keep voting for you based on name recognition.
Yeah. And what happened over that time was that he actually didn't go out. He hasn't had an in-person town hall since 2017. So we're talking about almost a decade of not having one. And inside of that, too, he lost all the relationships that he had in the district over the span of the last 2 decades. And so he's rolling into this saying, oh, I have all the corporate money in the world. I can just plaster mailboxes with direct flyers and, television ads and radio spots and connect my face to the names of the ballot. But ain't gonna work this time. I think that we have a really good shot here because we've been putting in work for about a year now.
Yeah, tell me about the conversations that you've been having out there on the campaign trail. I've seen posting from you, not just posting, articles on you. You've been talking a lot about flock cameras, surveillance. What's grabbing people now?
I think politics at this point, if you can get somebody to open the door or pick up the phone or see them at an event, they're all universal problems. Politics is universal problems that are attacked from different angles. And take Flock, for instance. Flock is government surveillance, plain and simple. And it resonates with a conservative base and a liberal base. And no one wants a camera reader following them around society. It's just not what we want here. And that's something that sticks. That's something that we can find bipartisan support on. Healthcare, something that you go back a decade and a half, people would clutch their pearls at the idea of single payer. Now we're staring down the barrel in our district about 20 to 40% health insurance premium increases in 1 year. And people are saying that's a broken system. And we will take whatever other system we can get.
Yeah,
and so
I recall, if I may, just because like I just saw an interview on this a couple of days ago. Every Democrat at least made fun of Donald Trump for saying like he has concepts of a plan. You know, he wanted to overturn Obamacare a decade ago, and still to this day, he has absolutely no suggestion for what would replace the ACA. And just the other day, Hakeem Jeffries was being asked about his stance on Medicare for All, which he used to support and now doesn't. And he essentially said the exact same thing. We need to get together and have a conversation about healthcare. It's the same concepts of a plan, you know? I think that back in 2016, when Bernie Sanders was fronting Medicare for All as a policy position, people mistakenly thought that it was a choice between Medicare for All and a different plan. In reality, it's always been Medicare for All or no plan, just a continued worsening of the existing system, which the ACA essentially didn't address. You know, pre-existing conditions, that was good. But apart from that, it was a, you know, insurance company backed plan. Getting everyone up on the ticket just increases their profits. It doesn't meaningfully address the underlying problem, which is, as you say, it costs $6,000 to get a Band-Aid and an aspirin at a at a hospital.
Yeah, I mean, that's the underlying things. And then you layer in some of the more nuanced parts of being a more rural. There's definitely city parts of our district, but it's 30% of the landmass of Massachusetts. So on our rural parts, we're looking at the big bullshit bill taking and threatening 25% of our rural hospitals here. And there's a large swath of our district that we have to think about that. Primary care physicians, we're at an extreme shortage, and we're going to see more and more be retiring in the next half decade. And we don't have a solution to that. The solution is to take all of the corporate decision making and remove it in the corporate greed out of that equation, and actually thinking about a system that is, one, more efficient, because the latest Yale study said it was going to save 114,000 lives and $1 trillion a year. But it also brings in the idea that you're making equitable decisions and sound decisions rather than catering to the needs of shareholders.
Yeah, which I don't think we're going to be getting much of that from Neal, unfortunately.
Oh no, he's the fucking poster child of all of this. It's bad. Everything. United Health, Pfizer, you go down the list, opioid companies. He takes money from anybody.
Yeah, it's funny because like I'm browsing his Wikipedia to supplement my ailing memory. That's its own health issue. A longtime advocate of healthcare reform, ... You read towards the end. In December 2019, some blame Neal for killing legislation that would have ended surprise medical bills, suspecting it may have been because of industry lobbyist donations to his re-election campaign. It's funny how this keeps happening, huh? You know, you get 2 terms as a hero or live 19 as a villain.
And the other part of that is that I would love to say that somewhere along the line he lost the plot. But you go back to 1989, and we've cranked through all of his FEC finance reports. He's taken that corporate money from the get-go. You know, and so then you temper all those expectations. The idea that he's there, we can think about with the ACA and really truly comprehensive approach to healthcare reform in the country. And he's going to temper those expectations because all of that corporate money has been there, and those relationships have been there since the get-go. And I mean, this is pulling back the curtain a little bit about campaign finance and running a campaign as a candidate. Who do you call to say thank you to when you get a donation? To me, it's people that give small contributions under $200, the grassroots people, right? I get a $25 donation, I give a call to somebody. I get a $1 donation, I give a call to somebody. When you're getting a $10,000 check, who's in your Rolodex? Who's the person that's going to be coming at dinners all throughout your life? Who is the person that you go to their baptism for because now they're a part of, quote unquote, your family? That's how you normalize all of this, right? You don't see that person as a lobbyist. You see that person as a friend that you're doing favors for because they're part of your life. I don't want those people to be part of my life.
Yeah, and it seems like this is pretty much the only life Richard Neal has at this point. Take a look at
Well,
the receipts for his direct contributions, and it's just about every company I've ever heard of over here. One of the
yeah.
largest recipients of pharmaceutical and insurance company money in Congress too, which is again, it's one of those like if every voter in MAO1 or elsewhere knew what was going on, I don't even think there'd be a race. They just give you the crown, you know? You ask anyone, hey, which do you prefer, this or that? The same or change? Do you like the idea of your representative taking millions of dollars in money from these corporations that have a popularity rating among Democrats of like 8%? No.
Yeah.
But we have to keep having these conversations because every hill's an uphill battle, or every fight's an uphill battle. Every hill has to be died on because they just have more money than us. How do so you've been getting lots of like local individual contributions. How do you feel your ground game has been compared to our boy Neal? How do you think you've been doing?
His ground game is non-existent. He is non-existent. He doesn't actually show up to anything, and that's what's going to bite him in the ass come September 1st, because what he's been looking at is FEC quarterly finance reports. Now, we at this point have raised somewhere in the ballpark of, I would say, 325,000. Why is that number important? Because AOC beat Crowley with 300,000. And so what we said from the get-go was he has millions of dollars in his corporate war chest. We're going to do two things. One, we're going to weaponize that money against him. All of that is dirty money. We're going to villainize him for taking it. And we're going to focus on our ground game. So as early as last winter, we had 60 people rolling deep in a snowstorm. It was a blizzard coming down, and people were knocking doors, and people would come out and be like, "Oh, what do you need? Did your car break down?" And people were going, "Whalen for Congress," and giving them lit. And we've been doing that consistently throughout the year. And on top of that, because he doesn't show up to anything or have any representatives, he had no idea what we were actually forming, both on the infrastructure and the connections and relationships in the district. So now he is scrambling, and everybody, I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, Vosh. I honestly think that we can do this, and it could be even something that is more significant than just an eke out win here.
It wouldn't be the first longtime incumbent who's basically a do-nothing politician bought by corpos who's been upended by a surprise challenger this election season. You know, in terms of left-leaning or DSA candidates challenging longtime incumbents, upending them and taking their seats, we've seen more in the past year than we did during the Tea Party for the Republicans. The problem is that these races can't even be centered on like 1 or 2 or 5 key districts because there are like dozens of Democratic politicians who are like this. Dinosaurs who do nothing, who don't even pretend to do their job anymore, but nonetheless get to absorb win after win after win because A, they have corporate money, and B, the state DNC pushes people to not challenge them. They say, yeah, he's been here for ages. Don't waste time trying to primary him, So this is how we get, dinosaurs. They run the district for 40 years. They do nothing. And then when a challenger comes along, you don't even get a lot of polling data to work off of. Nobody cares about Richard Neal, but he has name recognition. So the most that you get is like a couple of scant articles on how, I don't know, there's an upset. A challenger has appeared out of nowhere. But the antagonism and the deprivation that have produced this potential upset, it's been here for decades. Nobody covered it. Nobody cared who Richard Neal was, until somebody proved they were willing to primary him. I mean, he hasn't faced a meaningful challenge in what? How many years?
About 6 years. 2020 was a mayor of one of the other cities next door, and it got dirty too. There's a whole history behind that. The dude dragged him through the mud. Neal dragged his opponent through the mud, and it was bad. But I think what we're also doing when it goes back to bellwethers here, one of the bellwethers for us is John Larson and what just happened in Connecticut, because one, it's right next door. And some of these people literally in Connecticut are coming up to different protests and all these things in Springfield, which is right next to the state border right there. But Larson was a 78-year-old and incumbent since 1998. Richard Neal is 77 years old and is an incumbent since 1989. And
do you think the reason he's so deferential to the healthcare industry is because they give him personal discounts and all the elderly care that he needs to keep up at that age?
Yeah, he's got vouchers over there.
They're just giving him coupons for his daily visits to put him on the dialysis machine. Yeah, see, all these
Yeah.
dinosaurs, man, they don't even pretend to care, but we have to keep. It takes so much effort to dethrone these people, and they do nothing for it. They just sit. I'm looking, by the way. You mentioned the 2020 race. Pardon my pronunciation. Holyoke Mayor Alex Morse unsuccessfully challenged Richard Neal in the 2020 Democratic primary. In that election, Neal received the most PAC money of any candidate. 3.1 million out of his 4.9 million total raised. And then he was unopposed in the general, winning his 17th term. It's like this everywhere, you know?
Yeah. And the other thing that it doesn't tell you, and if you look up Alex Morse, it might be allegations. What happened there is the thing that happens time and time again with him. He's lazy. He doesn't actually campaign. He feels entitled to the seat. He waits until the last second when there's actual momentum going, and then he slanders the shit out of his opponent. And so what happened in that race was Alex Morse was a young gay mayor from that city, and he was all of a sudden attacked on allegations that he had inappropriate sexual relations with one of his students because he was a guest lecturer at UMass, one of the local colleges. He was exonerated after the fact after the primary, but it had come out that in an Intercept article that the individual that had manufactured those allegations was trying to curry favor with Richard Neal's office and
Jesus
get a job.
Christ.
And so that's what we're dealing with, a scumbag. We're dealing with a scumbag who is always constantly trying to do personal attacks and destroy people's lives. So, that's what we're always anticipating somewhere in the last, couple weeks, that he just throws out whatever allegations he wants. But, we're ready for him.
You've got a debate coming up in just a couple of days.
Yeah. So we'll see.
You gonna arm wrestle him up there? What's the plan? I'm just trying to wonder what attacks against you he's going to use. I don't know, maybe that you're insufficiently deferential to Israel, because it seems like he hasn't had to put any effort into a debate in quite a while.
Oh yeah, I mean, on the idea of AIPAC, dude not only takes tens of thousands from AIPAC, he went to the AIPAC summit last year, and he started flip-flopping on his. He voted to strip Israeli funding, which also screwed him because he was taken off the donor. His donor button was taken off the AIPAC website. Mm-hmm. But all you need to go do is look back into like 2017, where he was actually supported a ban on boycotting Israel.
The Israel Anti-Boycott Act of 2017. Yeah, he was one of the was he voted or co-sponsor? Which one was it for that?
I don't think he co-sponsored it.
He just backed
I should just roast him. But yeah, I mean, he just panders to votes, and he also has just been right there as the standard bearer for AIPAC for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, God, it's just disheartening to me to see versions of the story play out across the country, sometimes with a win for us, sometimes with a loss. It's just such an uphill battle. And the amount of money that it takes to disrupt a race in MA1 is not that much by the standards of a PAC like, AIPAC, or by the standards of the immense coffers of the healthcare industry. It just takes so much goddamn work, but it seems like you've been putting it in.
Oh, we put a lot of work in. I always say this, he's going to lose this race because if he we've done everything that we can to win this race, and he's done everything he can to lose it. If he put 10% of the effort in that he needed, he could have won. I went to more than 50 events a month starting last September. Jeez. And if he went to 5, he would have a legacy around and develop that relationship. He did not do that. He's waiting until the last 3 weeks. If he took the 5 million peak of his corporate war chest and put 500,000 into direct mailers from last year and just peppered them in, had a little narrative, he would have probably won, because that, people have that kind of the shorter memory, and then he could have cemented a narrative. He just simply did not participate in any campaigning, and he's never said my name. He's never said my name out loud.
Well, he hasn't had to do his job for years. You expect him to change course now? It's the final insult, really, when the people who are letting the country be run into the ground don't even care enough about keeping their own jobs that they bother campaigning to hold them, Like, they get that lazy. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the debate. That's one I'm definitely going to be watching, because for that, there's multiple times before a debate like this has been teed up, and then the 19-time or whatever else incumbent just canceled it. It seems like he's actually going to go through with this debate. So I guess that's
he better. He has a track record of canceling There was a candidates forum right in his own hometown right here, the third largest city in Massachusetts, which is the heart of the district, Springfield. There was 44 organizations that came together. They were having a candidates forum. He bailed on it twice, and he pissed off a lot of people in doing so because he hasn't had an in-person town hall since 2017, and people are super upset with that. And in that, we go to everything. You want me to show up? I'm showing up. And it's just he's burnt a lot of bridges as a result of that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he bailed. I'm going to show up regardless. I'll take all of his time and then some. So he can do whatever he wants, but I'm going to light him up on the 26th.
I really look forward to seeing it, even if it's just up there, just you up there on stage. I still look forward to watching it. I want it's. So you've been going out there. You've been attending events. You've been talking to people. I'm reading a delightful article. You and your yellow van. You have like a little. You've
1988 Toyota van.
Yes, and you're.
I've been driving it for that one for 6 years. I've been driving those types of vans for 15. So it's not even part of the campaign. It's just a part of my style.
Right. And I mean, I think the style represents a kind of authenticity that people have been lacking. Certainly Richard Neal would never, drive a 1988 yellow van around and go in person to attend events. Too busy getting chauffeured from pharmaceutical lobby talk to do anything fun and whimsical like that. You have these conversations. What do you talk about the most? What do you think the best pitch is in your experience? What best speaks to the anger and disenfranchisement that people are feeling right now in your district?
Healthcare, education, economy, through those all streams flow. So on the healthcare side, we talked about it, single payer system. Education, universal pre-K, pay teachers act out there, pay paraprofessionals act, tuition-free community college, vocational training. And then it begs the question, how do you actually afford those things? You tax the shit out of billionaires and trillionaires. And those all resonate with a lot of people across the political spectrum. But then it digs deeper because the things that I hear the most, all of a sudden somebody opens the door and they see me and then they see his face and they say two things. One, it's time. And two, term limits. And I've been a big proponent of term limits, somewhere in the ballpark of 12 to 16 years, probably on the 12-year side. But he's definitely not a proponent of term limits, but those are the things that get talked to me, right? And so it's the dinner table politics that we've gotten away from of the working and middle class. I do other things too that, I wear this all over the place. PV actually showed up. I always tell this story. We we were at an Italian feast with a grease pole. And there's a grease pole challenge. It's a 40-foot pole covered in grease, and you got to get to the top to get cured meats and cheeses. Go figure. It's an old Italian tradition. We have Team Whalen in it, and there's a whole bunch of amazing, awesome people, a lot of shift on the conservative side. And who's on our team? Well, it was the first time since 1992 we had women, probably the first time we had black women, definitely the first time we had trans women. And it's everybody participating in this thing, drinking beers, trying to get to the top of this grease pole and diffusing the politics of the situation, right? Because everybody has this common goal, and we're not thinking about, that person's trans or that person's, liberal or blah, blah, blah. It's everybody unified. So the things that we also do in different from what we hear on the platform and the things that we hear from people, we just participate in things. And that is the entry to normalizing the relationships and coming together in a way that politics is diffused.
If you can convince Richard Neal to participate in that grease pole competition sometime in the next 9 days, you might not have to win the primary.
I would love to see a greased up Richard Neal
scrambling up to the top for the cured meats.
Yep. Cured meats all day. I think, what was it?
Really the only legitimate way of determining a person's, credentials to run the country, I feel.
I honestly, why don't we just pick all of our politicians by getting up that grease pole,
Well, we might solve the octogenarians running DC problem if that was one of the prerequisites, Everyone has to do a bit of juggling. I'm just saying, it would. I'm not saying it's necessarily good policy, but it would indirectly solve some other problems.
We might have to delete this part because Hegseth's going to get his hands on this and make it a requirement for the army.
I've seen him do push-ups. If he has to pass any kind of physical competition in order to get re-entered, for future office, I feel it's not going to work out in his favor. I've seen what a push-up looks like to that guy.
What's going on with RFK's nipples? Can we milk that man?
Well,
What's going to come out?
I mean, nothing. If you think we have problems with raw milk now and just the general state of FDA, regulations, I feel that's maybe the worst and most diseased place you could get anything from. Where it's bad enough. Don't contribute. That's like a cost saving measure Trump's going to pull out in 27.
Yeah, I think that if you milked him, Monster would come out. That white one.
It's it's and these are the kinds of conversations you couldn't have with Richard Neal. Really though, I feel like I mean it's dumb. I don't have like the highest opinion of the average voter's ability to engage with the higher end technocratic policy that the US government has to engage in to stay afloat. I understand for the most part voters go off of vibes. It's just like it's a bitter pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, you have to meet people where they're at. And I think one of the most telling things, you said Richard Neal doesn't show up for town halls. The inauthenticity of people like Neal is evident without policy even being mentioned. Like if you just get your average 20-term DNC, 85-year-old whoever to show up at an in-person event and you contrast them against the average like young candidate running against them, the vibes are incredibly distinct. And people read that. Republicans read it too. It's not like Republicans see a guy like Richard Neal and they're like, oh, that's the guy that I want. That's the moderate candidate that I'm willing to support, I think that on an intuitive level, people understand that DC doesn't represent their interests. And it's the reason why people like Richard Neal have to run from debates, from town halls, because it's so obvious just at looking at them. It's obvious that they're not there for you,
Yep. People want somebody that cares. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I got a supporter that has a Whalen for Congress lawn sign in their yard and an anti-gun control lawn sign. And if go read my platform, it's right there for everybody to see. Ban on assault rifles. I remember a time in which they were banned. I support that. You couldn't have a different opinion on this, but show up. And that we've had conversations, and they know that the totality of my platform is there, and there's certain things we do agree on, and they know that they literally have my cell phone number and can call me up. And if something happens in their life, and I can solve it through networking or finding resources, I'm going to be there. People want a real person on the other end of the representation that they have, and so it's transcending politics. It's a crazy thing. I got people unenrolling from the Republican Party to vote for us in the Democratic primary. And I think that's the winning ticket.
More than any policy, yeah. I think that like I've seen some over the past 2 years, I've seen some shockingly bad takes from New Yorkers on Mamdani, right? I've seen him represented all across the political spectrum. I saw an article earlier today where people who supported Mamdani did so because they thought that he ran to the right of Cuomo. Whatever. People have opinions all over the place. People are the voters, they're the voters. What do you expect? But his popularity right now is through the roof. And I think that's because he's made himself very present, very visible. And every New Yorker, regardless of their political affiliation, as long as they're not in Staten Island, knows that he is a mayor who represents them. He can be talked to. He can be engaged with. You could see him on the sidewalk and have a normal conversation with him. The fact that this is the bar, that it's fallen so low, to me is shocking and kind of disheartening that, our politician's a human being, big whoop, right? But it's meaningful. And then you take a look at these candidates, right? People like Cuomo, people like Richard Neal, people who have been in power for way too long, they cannot hold a conversation. Not only do they not pretend to care, they can't even, they're like stilted. There's this like contemptuous, you're wasting my time look that they give you when you talk to them, because from their perspective, they're just sitting in the job they've been in for 40 years. It's like talking to a guy who knows he's the only game in town. He doesn't even have to sell himself to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. The Mamdani thing is very interesting because you executive branch, decision-making, action, but I see Congress as in politics as a verb, because when I go to the Burlington ICE facility, one of the ICE facilities here, and show up and be present and talk to a crowd of individuals and get them all riled up and inspired in a good way, I think that right there is an active process of advocacy, right? When I go pick up trash on a community trash pickup day in the city in Holyoke or Springfield and the cities around here, that is being there, being present, and actually showing that we can make meaningful change, however small it is, but on a kind of comprehensive scale. There is legislation that is moving. It also moves at a snail's pace, and you can bring real change by enacting and influencing, inspiring people to come out. And so that's why the door knocking is huge and the postcards, but it's also bringing people to be volunteers at the Caribbean Festival, right? There was a parade that we had our own Team Whalen volunteers participating in that parade and festival. And it's that's what people want. People just don't want politics as usual. They want problem solvers. And that's what we've been doing over here.
Yeah, and people they think they can talk to. And you've got, what is I can't do math. We got 9 days? You've got 9 days before the primary. You've got 4 before the debate. And you're coming into this pretty confident, which I appreciate because, given the generally dour mood covering politics has kind of compelled in me and people in my field over the past, 2 years, especially. It's nice to feel optimistic. We're all rooting for you. And you probably want more than people rooting for you. You want canvassers and volunteers and donations. So to that point, could you kindly remind the fine people watching who you are, where you are, and what you're up to?
Yeah, so PV is hosting phone banks, which is huge. I think that we have a goal of somewhere in the ballpark of 100,000 calls. So if you have the ability to hop on a phone bank, I jump on those phone banks too. Sometimes I distract people too much, but there's more information that can be made available in the chat and discussion there. Door knocking, we have a bunch of different events. WhalenForCongressMA.com, WhalenForCongressMA.com. All the events are there. We have mobilized. You can just sign up. We'll send you the updates. Door knocking is super important. Our field game is absolutely astounding. That's what's going to get the job done, especially in this last throws. Donations I have a student. I've been a high school teacher for the last 11 years. I have a student that gives $1 a month. And I will take that $1 over 10,000 from any motherfucking pack. Okay. So anything that you can give, it goes directly to the flyers that we were just putting on there. Shout out to Jenny for knocking doors with me today. It goes directly to those. So those are the big things right now. And if you live in district or if you have somebody that that lives in Mass 1, give them a call. And in fact, give 20 people a call because that's the best vouch. They are the people that love you and trust you and appreciate you. And I think that's what we're doing. All politics is local, the old Tip O'Neill adage. And that's what we've done. We take the national, we bring it into the local, and we bring the local and bring it out on the state, municipal, state, and federal level into the national. And so, yeah, appreciate you all. PB has rolled deep. I have a leather jacket that I wear. It's my signature jacket. I got a patch on it that has the PV. It's the PV patch, and I wear that with pride because these are some real motherfuckers.
I hope they don't let it go to their head. Yeah, guys, if you're watching this right now or in the near future, PV is going to be phone banking for a while out from right now. Please go and join them. Seriously, it would be so cool to get this win. And, I'll be directing the same to the fine people who watch this on YouTube after the fact. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk. I really, really, really hope that you kick his ass. I am so tired of, I genuinely, and I mean this, they can quote me, I genuinely would prefer it if our government was filled with evil, octogenarian, 20-term running, whatever, people who are openly, maliciously trying to make the country worse, than people who are just bored, occupying their offices, doing nothing, but allowing the country to get worse because of it. It's more insulting to have the architects of our collective demise be people who are just too lazy to show up and canvass or phone bank or campaign at all. It's an insult.
Yeah. It's the antithesis to what democracy is supposed to be about. I mean, there's a lot of lost art forms that we brought back that are inspiring people. There were some people that were coming out for the first day to ever campus, and that's awesome. That's a sacred thing, knocking on a door and saying, "Hey, I believe in someone that much that I'm going to come out and talk to a stranger." So, yeah,
it really is.
The
open, direct advocacy for evil is in a way more democratic than manipulating and invoking apathy to merely allow evil through collective disinterest. Like that's legitimately a less democratic approach to get the same outcome. On to September 1st. God willing, I hope that you get it seriously, and good luck out there. Okay, good luck in the debate too, whether or not he shows up.
Yeah, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the time. Peace.
Cool, dude. Seriously, go on a phone bank. Richard Neal is in a pretty uniquely weak position. That means that this is like a surprise challenge that could actually amount to something. As a matter of fact, hold on one second. Let me pull up the article that I just had up. Richard Neal is such a weak contender that in the last election back in 2024, he won against an independent, winning only 62.4% of the vote. That's right. Independents who do not do very well, largely outside of extremely specific circumstances, an independent was able to put him in a position where he only won around 60% of the vote. How do you think a real Democratic challenger could do? Please go ahead and help him. Go ahead and help him. Do what you can. Phone bank with PV. Man's taking the PV pledge. Doing poorly against an independent candidate is such a move of desperation from it's such a expression of desperation from the voters that they're looking for someone new.